There was a time when serving your country meant missing birthdays and holidays, and first steps and graduations. But coming home meant those sacrifices were over, and your family would be whole again. But when 32-year-old Army Sergeant Lisa Chen stood on the Family Feud stage in March 2025 alongside her unit members, trying to keep her composure while answering questions about what she had missed most during her 18-month deployment to South Korea, Steve Harvey had no idea that her 3 children were waiting backstage, with a photograph that would make him understand the true cost of service and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her children. What happened next would prove that some promises are kept even when everything else is taken away, and that love can survive separation, sacrifice, and heartbreak that would break anyone else. Before we dive into this story of deployment, devotion, and the moment a family was finally made whole, if you believe our military families deserve our deepest respect and support, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. What you're about to witness will remind you that freedom is not free, and the price is paid not just by soldiers, but by the children who wait for them to come home. The Family Feud studio was alive with energy that bright March morning. 2 teams stood ready to compete, both with military connections that made this a special Veterans Appreciation episode. On one side stood a group of Navy veterans from San Diego, all retired, all enjoying the camaraderie that comes from shared service decades earlier. On the other side stood 5 active duty Army soldiers from Fort Bragg, all women, all currently serving, all wearing their dress uniforms with pride and precision. At the center of the Army team stood Sergeant Lisa Chen, 32 years old, with the bearing of someone who had learned to command respect while still maintaining warmth. Her uniform was immaculate, her posture perfect, but her eyes held something that Steve Harvey, in all his years of reading people, recognized immediately as profound exhaustion mixed with barely contained emotion. She had the look of someone who was holding themselves together through sheer force of will, someone who could not afford to break down because too many people were depending on her to stay strong. Other 4 soldiers on her team were her unit members, women she had served with during their recent deployment to South Korea. They stood together with the easy familiarity of people who had shared difficult circumstances and come out the other side bonded in ways that civilians could never fully understand. There was Specialist Rodriguez, 24, who had been Lisa's right hand during deployment. Staff Sergeant Williams, 35, who had 2 decades of service and the wisdom that came with it. Private First Class Johnson, 21, the youngest of the group, still finding her footing in military life. And Sergeant First Class Brown, 40, who had served as a mother figure to all of them during the long months away from home. Steve Harvey started his usual warm-up, asking the Navy team about their service, their lives now, their reasons for coming on the show. They were jovial and relaxed, comfortable in their retirement, happy to be there. Then Steve turned to the Army team and the energy shifted. There was a seriousness to these women, a sense that they were carrying something heavy even as they smiled for the cameras. Steve approached Lisa, who stood at the lead position. "Sergeant Chen, thank you for your service. Tell me about your team here." Lisa's voice was steady and professional. "Sir, these are my sisters in arms. We just returned from an 18-month deployment to South Korea. We served together, supported each other, and became family." Steve nodded, sensing there was more to the story. 18 months is a long time to be away from home. What was the hardest part? Lisa's composure flickered for just a moment, a crack in the armor she had spent 18 months building. When she spoke, her voice was quieter but no less controlled. "The hardest part, Steve, was being away from my children. I have 3 kids. Emma is 9, Jackson is 7, and Sophie is 5. I missed a year and a half of their lives. I missed birthdays and school plays and soccer games and bedtime stories. I missed everything." The studio went quiet. Steve's expression shifted from entertainer to empathetic listener. "Where are your children now?" "They are with my mother in Virginia. She has been taking care of them during my deployment, and while I have been back stateside getting reintegrated. I have not seen them in person in 18 months. We have done video calls, but it is not the same as holding them, you know." Steve's eyes widened. "Wait, you have been back from deployment, but you still have not seen your children." Lisa shook her head, fighting to keep her emotions in check. "The military does not just send you home the day after you return from deployment. There is processing, debriefing, medical evaluations, reintegration training. I have been back on U.S. soil for 3 weeks, but I have been at Fort Bragg the whole time. My leave starts next week. I was supposed to fly to Virginia the day after this taping to finally see them." The weight of that statement settled over the studio. Here was a woman who had served her country for 18 months, who had been separated from her children for all that time, and even now that she was home, bureaucracy and protocol kept her from the reunion she had been dreaming about. That is not right, Steve said, his voice carrying an edge of anger and frustration. That is not right at all. You serve your country, you come home, and they make you wait 3 more weeks before you can see your babies. Lisa's military training kicked in, her voice automatic. It is necessary, sir. The transition from deployment to civilian life requires proper processing. The military wants to make sure we are ready to go home. But Steve was not having it. Sergeant, you can give me the official line all you want, but I can see it on your face. This is killing you. We're standing here in front of me trying to play a game show when all you want is to hold your children. Lisa's eyes filled with tears that she refused to let fall. Every single day for 18 months, I woke up and looked at their picture. Every night before I slept, I kissed that same picture. When things got hard, when I was tired and homesick and questioning why I was there, I looked at their faces and remembered I was serving so they could grow up in a safe country. But Steve, I missed so much. Emma lost her first tooth on a video call and I could not even save it for the tooth fairy. Jackson learned to ride a bike and I saw it on a recording my mother sent. Sophie started kindergarten and I was not there to walk her to the classroom. I have tried to be strong, tried to tell myself that my service matters and the sacrifice is worth it. But right now, I just want my kids. The studio was completely silent except for the sound of people crying. Steve Harvey, a man who had spent decades on television maintaining his composure through countless emotional moments, was visibly struggling. Specialist Rodriguez put her hand on Lisa's shoulder in solidarity. The other team members moved closer, a protective circle around their sergeant who was finally letting her guard down. Steve set down his cards and walked closer to Lisa. Let me ask you something. When you signed up for the army, did you know it would cost you this much? Lisa wiped her eyes, trying to regain her composure. Honestly, no, I joined when Emma was a baby. My husband and I thought we could both serve and make it work, but he died in a training accident when Sophie was 6 months old. I became a single mother in the military. My mother stepped in to help and she has been incredible. But this deployment, being gone for 18 months, missing so much of their childhood, I did not know it would hurt this much. The revelation that she was a widow, a single mother, made the story even more heartbreaking. Steve's face showed a mixture of sympathy and admiration. So you are raising 3 kids alone while serving your country? Yes, sir. My mother is the primary caregiver when I am deployed or training, but I am their mom, or at least, I try to be when the Army lets me. Staff Sergeant Williams spoke up, her voice carrying the authority of her rank and experience. Mr. Harvey, what you need to understand is that Sergeant Chen is one of the best soldiers I have ever served with. When we were in South Korea, she led her team with excellence. She never complained, never let her personal struggles affect her performance. But every single one of us saw her looking at pictures of those kids. Every single one of us heard her crying at night when she thought we were asleep. She sacrificed everything for her country, and she did it with honor and dignity. Steve turned to the other women on the team. And what about you all? Do you have families? Specialist Rodriguez nodded. I have a son, he is 3. My husband took care of him during deployment, but it was still the hardest thing I have ever done. Private First Class Johnson said, I do not have kids yet, but watching Sergeant Chen, watching how much she sacrificed, it made me understand what service really costs. Sergeant First Class Brown, the oldest of the group, added, I have grown children, but I remember what it was like when they were young and I was deployed. The military asks everything of us, our time, our safety, our family, and we give it because we believe in something bigger than ourselves. But that does not make it easy, and it does not erase the cost. Steve Harvey was visibly emotional now, his voice thick with feeling. I want everyone watching to understand something. We talk about supporting our troops. We put yellow ribbons on our cars and we say thank you for your service. But do we really understand what we are asking? We are asking mothers to leave their babies. We are asking them to miss first steps and first words and first days of school. We are asking them to serve their country while their children grow up without them. And then, even when they come home, we make them wait to be reunited because of bureaucracy and protocol. He turned back to Lisa. How do your kids understand all this? How do you explain to a 5-year-old why mommy has been gone for a year and a half? Lisa's voice broke. I do not know if they do understand. Sophie was 3 when I left, she is 5 now. I have missed so much of her childhood that I am not sure she will even remember me the same way. Emma tries to be strong, tries to be the big sister and help my mother. But she should not have to be strong. She should get to be a kid. And Jackson, he is at that age where he is starting to understand that other kids have moms who are there and his mom is not. How do I make that okay? How do I make up for missing 18 months? Steve looked at the cameras, then back at Lisa. Something in his expression changed, a decision made. Sergeant Chen, I need to tell you something. Your mother contacted our producers weeks ago. She told them about your service, about your sacrifice, about how much you have given. And she told them about your children and how much they miss you. Lisa looked confused. My mother contacted you. She did. And she asked us if there was any way we could help make your reunion with your kids special. So we worked with your command at Fort Bragg, and we got permission to do something different today. Steve gestured to the backstage area, and the entire studio seemed to hold its breath. Sergeant Lisa Chen, your children are here. They are backstage right now. And they have something they want to show you. Lisa's hands flew to her mouth. Her whole body started shaking. The other soldiers on her team were crying, clearly aware of what was about to happen. Steve waved to someone off stage, and suddenly, 3 children appeared at the edge of the stage. 9-year-old Emma was in the lead, holding the hands of her younger siblings. 7-year-old Jackson was clutching something against his chest. 5-year-old Sophie was looking around with wide eyes, trying to find someone in the crowd, and then Sophie saw her. Even at 5 years old, even after 18 months apart, even across the distance of the stage, she recognized her mother. Mommy! Sophie broke free from Emma's hand and ran. Not walked, not approached carefully, but ran with the full abandon of a child who had been waiting 18 months for this moment. Jackson saw his mother and followed his sister. Emma, trying to be the responsible older sister, walked quickly but with more control, though tears were streaming down her face. The studio erupted. The audience was on their feet, crying, cheering, watching as these 3 children ran toward the mother they had not seen in a year and a half. Steve Harvey stepped back, giving them space, his own face wet with tears. Lisa dropped to her knees just in time to catch Sophie, who crashed into her with the force of 18 months of missing her mother. Then Jackson arrived, throwing his arms around both of them. Emma joined a moment later, more reserved but no less emotional, completing the family embrace. Mommy, you are here, you are really here. Sophie was crying and laughing at the same time. Grandma said we were going to see you, but I did not believe it, but you are here. Jackson was sobbing, his face buried in Lisa's shoulder, the item he had been clutching pressed between them. Lisa was holding all 3 of them, one arm around Sophie, one around Jackson, pulling Emma closer with her shoulder, trying to touch all of them at once, trying to convince herself this was real. I am here, babies, I am here, I am so sorry. I am so sorry I was gone so long. I missed you so much. Every single day I missed you so much. Emma, the oldest, spoke through her tears. We missed you too, Mommy. We tried to be brave like you said. We tried to be strong. But it was so hard. It was so hard. The other soldiers on Lisa's team were crying. The Navy veterans on the opposite team were crying. The audience was crying. The camera operators were wiping their eyes. Steve Harvey stood to the side, letting this moment unfold, understanding that what was happening was more important than any game show. After several minutes, Jackson pulled back slightly and looked up at his mother. His face was blotchy from crying, but he was smiling. Mommy, I brought something to show you. So you know we remembered. He held up what he had been clutching, and the camera zoomed in to show what it was. It was a photograph, worn and creased from being handled countless times. The photograph showed Lisa in her uniform, taken before her deployment, with all 3 children gathered around her. They were all smiling, a family frozen in a moment before 18 months of separation. We kept your picture, Mommy, Jackson said. Every night before bed, Grandma let us kiss your picture and say good night. We did it every single night for all the days you were gone. Emma counted them, 547 nights. Lisa took the photograph, her hands shaking. She looked at the image of her family, at the version of these children who were so much smaller, so much younger. She looked at her own face in the photograph, before the deployment, before the sacrifice, before she knew how much it would cost to be apart from them. You kept this picture, you kissed it every night, Emma nodded. We had to fold it to fit it in the special box Grandma made us. See the creases? That is from us opening and closing it so many times. But we were careful. We never wanted to lose it because it was our only way to have you close. Lisa looked at the photograph, at the creases and worn edges that showed how much these children had needed her, how much they had held onto this one image of their family together. I had a picture too, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I kept it with me the whole deployment. I looked at it every morning and every night just like you did. I kissed it and I promised you that Mommy would come home. Sophie, still pressed against her mother's side, looked up. You kept our picture too, we matched. We matched, baby. Even though we were so far apart, we were looking at each other every day. We were saying good night to each other even though we could not hear each other. Steve Harvey walked closer, his voice gentle. Sergeant Chen, I want you to know that your mother told us this story. About how your children kept that photograph, about how they never missed a single night of saying good night to your picture. She said it was the only thing that kept them going, believing that you would come back. He turned to the children. Emma, Jackson, Sophie, do you know how brave your mom is? Do you know what she was doing while she was away? Emma, the oldest, spoke with the wisdom of a child who had grown up too fast. Grandma told us Mommy was protecting people, that she was making the world safer for us, but we just wanted her to come home. We did not want her to be brave, we wanted her to be here. Jackson added, I told the kids at school my mom was a hero. They said heroes are not real, but my mom is real and she is a hero, so they were wrong. Sophie, in the simple clarity that only a 5-year-old can have, said, I just wanted my mommy. I did not care about heroes. I wanted mommy to read me stories and tuck me in and kiss me goodnight for real, not just in pictures. Lisa pulled them closer, her voice breaking completely. I know, baby, I know, I wanted that too. Every single day I wanted that too. And I am so sorry that I could not be there. I am so sorry that you had to be brave. You should not have had to be that strong. Steve looked at the camera, his face serious. This is what service costs. This is what we ask of our military families, not just the soldiers but their children. These 3 kids, they gave up their mother for 18 months. They kissed a photograph instead of having bedtime stories. They said goodnight to a picture instead of getting tucked in. They grew and changed and learned and lived without their mom because she was serving our country. He turned back to Lisa and her children. But you know what I see here? I see 3 kids who never stopped believing their mom would come home. I see a mom who never stopped fighting to get back to them. I see a family that survived separation that would destroy most people. I see love that is stronger than distance, stronger than time, stronger than anything. Lisa looked at Steve, then at her children, then at her fellow soldiers who had stood by her through deployment. I could not have done it without my team. These women, they held me together when I was falling apart. They let me cry when I needed to cry, and they made me laugh when I needed to remember joy. They reminded me every day why I was there and what I was fighting for. Specialist Rodriguez stepped forward. Sergeant Chen never complained, not once, but we all knew, we all saw. Every time we did a video call home, we watched her light up talking to her kids, and then we watched her break down after they hung up. We watched her count down the days. Watched her miss every milestone. And we watched her keep going because she is the strongest person I have ever known. Steve made another gesture to someone backstage, and Lisa's mother walked onto the stage. She was in her late 60s, with kind eyes and the exhausted look of someone who had been raising 3 children while worrying about her daughter on the other side of the world. Mama! Lisa stood up, still holding Sophie, and embraced her mother with her free arm while Emma and Jackson pressed close. You planned this, you contacted the show. Her mother was crying. You have given so much, you have sacrificed so much. You deserve to have this reunion be special. You deserve to have people understand what you gave up and what these children gave up. I wanted the world to see what military families go through. Steve invited everyone to sit, and they spent the next hour not playing Family Feud, but having one of the most powerful conversations about military service and family sacrifice that had ever been broadcast. Lisa's mother talked about the 18 months of raising her grandchildren alone, of trying to explain to a 3-year-old why mommy was not coming home, of watching Emma try to be strong and Jackson act out because he could not articulate his pain, and Sophie sometimes forget her mother's face between video calls. The children talked about what it was like. Emma described how she had become the little mother, helping her grandmother, watching her siblings, being responsible beyond her years. Jackson talked about being angry, about not understanding why his mom had to go when other kids' moms got to stay. Sophie, with devastating simplicity, said she sometimes forgot what mommy's hugs felt like, and that made her sad. Lisa talked about the deployment from her perspective, about the guilt of missing so much, about the calls home where she tried to be cheerful but fell apart the moment they disconnected, about the photograph she carried everywhere, the edges worn smooth from being touched so often, about lying awake at night wondering if her children would remember her, if she was sacrificing her relationship with them for her service to her country. Steve asked the question that everyone was thinking. Was it worth it? If you could go back, knowing what you know now about what it would cost, would you still deploy? Lisa was quiet for a long time, looking at her children, at the photograph with its worn edges and careful creases. Finally, she spoke. I do not know. I want to say yes because I believe in service. I believe in protecting our country. I believe that what we do matters. But looking at my kids now, seeing how much they have grown, how much I have missed, I honestly do not know. The cost was so high, maybe too high, her mother spoke up. The military asks everything. They ask you to give your time, your safety, your family, and they do not always give you a choice. When you get deployment orders, you go. You do not get to say, but my kids need me, or but they are too young. You go, and the children learn to survive without you. But surviving is not the same as thriving. Steve turned to the camera, his voice passionate and urgent. If you are watching this and you have someone in your life who has served or is currently serving, I need you to understand something. When they say they missed birthdays or holidays or milestones, this is what they mean. They missed real, important, irreplaceable moments. Emma lost a tooth. Jackson learned to ride a bike. Sophie started kindergarten. Those moments are gone. They cannot be recreated. And Lisa missed all of them because she was serving our country. He paused, letting that sink in. So when you thank someone for their service, remember what that service actually cost. Remember the photographs worn smooth from being kissed goodnight. Remember the children who counted 547 nights waiting for their parent to come home. Remember the sacrifices that we ask of military families every single day. The show never aired as a typical Family Feud episode. Instead, it became a special about military family sacrifice, about the cost of deployment, about the resilience of children and the strength of mothers who serve. The photograph of Lisa and her children, the one with all its creases and worn edges, became iconic. Copies of it were shared millions of times on social media with the caption, "This is what service costs." The Veterans Affairs Department used clips from the show in their family support programs. Military bases across the country started family reunion support initiatives. Congress members referenced Lisa's story when debating military family benefits. The photograph became a symbol of all the military families who sacrifice so much while their loved ones serve. 6 months after the show aired, Steve Harvey did a follow-up with Lisa and her family. They appeared together on his talk show, all four of them sitting on the couch, Emma and Sophie on either side of Lisa, Jackson on her lap. The change in all of them was visible. The children were more relaxed, more secure. Lisa looked less exhausted, more present. Tell us what the last 6 months have been like, Steve asked. Lisa smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. We have been making up for lost time. I got 3 months of leave after that episode aired, and we spent it reconnecting. We went to the beach. We had movie nights. We read stories together. I tucked them in every single night. And slowly we started to feel like a family again. Emma spoke up. It was weird at first, like having a stranger in the house, but Mommy was patient. She did not get mad when I forgot to tell her things or when I went to Grandma instead of her. She just kept showing up, kept being there until it felt normal again. Jackson said, "We do not need the picture anymore. We have the real Mommy now." Sophie, now 6 and more articulate, added, "But we kept it. It is in a special frame in our house because it reminds us that even when we were apart, we were still together." Steve asked the hard question. "What happens when you deploy again? Because you are still active duty, right?" Lisa nodded. "I am, but I have made some decisions. I have put in for a transfer to a position that does not require deployment. I might not get it, but I am trying. Because I realize that I can serve my country in many ways. And right now, the most important service I can provide is being a mother to these 3 incredible kids." She looked at her children with pride and love. "They survived 18 months without me. They were brave and strong and resilient. But they should not have to be that brave again. They should get to be kids. So I am fighting for a way to serve that does not require me to leave them." Steve turned to Lisa's mother, who was also present for the interview. "How do you feel about all of this?" "Relieved," she said honestly. "I love my grandchildren. I would do anything for them, but I am not their mother. They needed their mother. And for 18 months, I watched them struggle with that absence. I watched them try to be brave and I watched them break down. I am grateful that Lisa is finding a way to serve that does not require that sacrifice again." The interview concluded with Steve making an announcement. He had partnered with several military family organizations to create a support fund for children of deployed parents. The fund would provide resources for childcare, counseling, educational support, and family reunions. The photograph of Lisa and her children became the symbol of the fund, a reminder of what these families endure. 10 years after that episode of Family Feud, Lisa Chen had retired from active military service with full honors. She worked as a veterans advocate, specifically focusing on military family support and deployment impact on children. Emma was 19 and in college. Jackson was 17 and applying to the Naval Academy, wanting to serve but with a clearer understanding of the cost. Sophie was 15, a talented writer who had written an award-winning essay about her experience as a child of a deployed parent. The photograph, the one with all its creases and worn edges, still hung in their living room, but now it hung alongside photographs of all the moments Lisa had been present for after she came home. Graduations and birthdays and ordinary dinners and family vacations. Proof that they had rebuilt what deployment had tried to take from them. If you have been moved by this story of sacrifice, separation, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her children, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share this with someone who knows a military family. Share this with someone who has served. Remember that when we ask our soldiers to deploy, we are asking their children to sacrifice too. We are asking families to survive separation that would break most people. We are asking them to kiss photographs instead of the people they love. 547 nights. That is how long Emma counted. 547 nights of saying goodnight to a picture. That is the cost of service. That is what freedom requires. And these families pay it every single day with courage and resilience and love that refuses to break even when everything else is falling apart. Honor them. Support them. Remember them. Because they have given everything so that we can be free.